All right, everybody. So welcome to This Week in Housing, San Diego, episode 2. It is May 1st. We are fortunate enough to be joined this week by another great guest, Philippe Heller. He's the president of the Real Estate Inspection Company. I'm going to let Philippe introduce himself and the company here in a minute. But I can tell you, personally, we've done a lot of business with them. We don't affect or choose or try to influence who buyers or sellers choose for a home inspector. That can get into some pretty shady areas there. But we do provide a list of the people we've worked with and that do very good jobs. I do know that the Real Estate Inspection Company is on the top of that list. And we have had zero issues with them for as long as I remember. So that's my 10 cents there. So I'm going to bring Philippe in a minute. Those of you that are seeing the video, you can see him up there. So let's go ahead and get rolling. A couple things first. We need to time and date stamp this. We are going to be going over some market information, some financial, unemployment, GDP information. So if someone's watching this in a week and what we're saying today is completely ridiculous, that's why we want to time and date stamp this. So it is May 1st, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time. The other part is a very big thank you to Keeping Current Matters and everybody over there, Steve Harney and the crew. A lot of the research and the graphics are directly from them. So, all right, let's get going. Let's see how delayed my computer wants to be today. All right, so the methodology that we're going to be talking about today, it's very simple. We're always looking for long-term and reliable resources for market information and the analysis as well as the science behind it. The logos in the lower right, those are just some of the resources that we're using. So this is not opinion. This isn't what I feel. No one cares what I feel. Everybody cares about numbers. All right, so the disclaimers up front, nobody can give you perfect advice. If anyone tries to do that or tells you they are, run from them and run quickly. Number 2, this is what we're seeing taking place in the real world. Number 3, this is what the science has to say. Based on all that, I'm going to give you the best advice that I possibly can. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Philippe. I'm going to let him talk about the company, and then he's going to give us an update on home inspections, coronavirus, and all that. So Philippe, welcome aboard, and the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much, and I really appreciate it because I'm a numbers guy too, and the numbers are what they are. They just are. So I like to stick to that, and we can talk about what we would like, but at the end of the day, it's the numbers that talk. So I'm an open book. I'm willing to share what is going on from our point of view. Like Ryan said, I'm Philippe Heller, and I started the Real Estate Inspection Company back in 2004. We're a company of about 20 people, and that includes home inspectors, we've got drain line technicians, we've got customer service representatives. So we have been in it. We do a lot of work all over San Diego, South Orange County, and Riverside. So we've been hit. Obviously, we're only working when real estate transactions are going on. So we're in this together. And what we have seen is that we stuck with it right through the beginning. So around March 18th, 19th is when we really started seeing the effects of it. There was still kind of a groundswell of transactions that were coming through the system. So we stayed pretty busy for a few weeks, but then certainly when April hit, it started to slow down. And of course, all the new rules. And Ryan wanted to go over like what we're doing in this new era of COVID-19. How are we adapting just as realtors have adapted to the new rules and still be able to provide good service? A totally different ballgame. All of our guys, myself included, really like to educate clients. I think all good real estate agents do the same. You want them to understand what's going on. So it's been a big adjustment to all of a sudden do our job and try and explain our craft to the clients without having them there. Now we're talking about plenums and ductwork and R values, and we can't show it to them. We can't tell them what we're doing. So we have to do it creatively via Zoom, via FaceTime, via phone calls. We have asked each and every client and real estate agent not to attend the home inspection, but which we've never done before. We've always really enjoyed having everybody come to the inspection, attend, go through the summary, look at the pictures, we can point things out. So this has been a big transition. We have started to ask that nobody attend, only the sellers if they have nowhere else to go. And and most real estate agents have been doing real well, sending us a 1-day code and letting us let ourselves in. We have our guys are wiping down all their equipment before they start. Luckily, we've had no problem with our supply of sanitary wipes and alcohol and face masks and gloves. And then they're wiping down all of the things that they touched throughout the house. So appliance knobs and microwave handles and switches, toilet flush handles, all those things that they're going through, they're wiping them down after they complete it, thermostats included, and going through, getting in and out as quick as they can, and leaving the house back to the sellers as they found it, and then completing the reports off-site, and then calling the agent and the clients and going over the reports that way. So it's been a big adjustment. Like I said, all our guys are pretty social guys, and they like normally to share their knowledge. They're big on that. And I think it's a better understanding instead of just throwing a 60-page report in somebody's inbox and saying, good luck. So we are still walking them through and going, that's how from our perspective, that's how it's changed. We have seen the market picking back up. For the total month of April, the number of inspections is down about a third. It's starting to come back out. So last couple of weeks, we've seen definite improvement. But for this month over April 2019, our volume of inspections is down about 30%. As far as the other interesting thing that we've seen is that the houses that we're inspecting tend to be under 2,500 square feet or condos and townhouses. We're not seeing, we're also seeing a lot of small multifamily, like 3 to 4 units. The houses that have kind of stopped coming through are the 2,500 square feet and up. Probably a price point of, say, $1.2 million and up. Those have dramatically slowed. So that's one thing that we have noticed is we do a lot of big houses everywhere from Carmel Valley to Rancho Santa Fe and Del Mar, and we're used to doing, sending out multiple guys. And so that is another observation that we've seen. And just to give you an idea, because this is a metric that we track, in a 12-month period, we inspect over $3 billion worth of real estate. So we see a ton of stuff, but we are seeing that number trend downwards to the kind of lower end of the market. And if anybody, I don't know if Ryan has the chat on here, but if you want to ask any questions, you can go ahead and submit them, and then I want to make sure I address everything. Let's see, what else is going on? We did have to furlough a couple of guys, and that was voluntary because they had young children at home. And when this first came out, their spouses were a little concerned about, perhaps bringing, it's very scary, of course, when this all first happened, about bringing something home to newborn kids. So we did have a couple of guys voluntarily furlough, but otherwise all the other guys, you have to remember that home inspectors have always been aware and careful of diseases, of viruses, and of just some disgusting houses that we've been in, to be frank. There's been hantavirus that's always been around, and that's transmitted through rodent droppings. And our guys are used to crawling under houses. That's why we wear our PPE and the disposable Tyvek suits. Before I was really aware of hantavirus, way back when I started, I used to wear this kind of cotton, look like a jumpsuit, and it'd get washed maybe once a week, and I'd reuse it. We've since obviously have started to use disposable Tyvek suits and disposable stuff because we know now that a single use is important so that we're not transferring hantavirus, which is also extremely deadly. It has very similar symptoms to the flu. You feel achy and whatnot, and by the time you go to the doctor, you're dead. So it's really, really a tough thing. So home inspectors have always been knowledgeable and careful about this. It's just now we're even more so careful inside the house and not just in the attics and crawl spaces. So most of the inspectors kind of rolled with it. And like I said, other than making an extra show of, so everyone who is there is comfortable, especially the sellers, wiping down everything. Another trend that is happening similar to the increase in Matterport, is that we are seeing an increase in the number of pre-listing inspections. And we've always been proponents of pre-listing inspections for a number of reasons. First of all, it puts control back into the seller's hands. They're not going to be surprised at the 11th hour when a buyer's inspector comes in, does a report, and finds out that maybe the 25-year-old AC system isn't cooling properly. What's going to happen? The buyer's going to ask for a $15,000 credit for a whole new system because, after all, it's 25 years old. If you do a pre-listing inspection and you find this out up front, you can talk to your sellers about perhaps just having the system serviced and it runs great. And that way, when a buyer's inspector comes in, there's no issues with it. Hopefully, they've been supplied with a nice home warranty that's going to keep that unit running. And it really, really reduces issues like that. It also reduces how many people are coming through at the back end when at the end of escrow. So you do this up front, and we don't care. Like, it's not a sales pitch, because whether we do a pre-listing inspection or a buyer's inspection, it's the same thing. But it does put the negotiating power back into the hands of the listing agent and the sellers. It also shows good faith. There's so many deals being done right now where buyers haven't even been in a property. They're buying them just based on a Matterport or just photos or something like that. And so now, if they can see that the sellers took the time and went to the expense of having a pre-listing inspection and have a list or receipts for anything that was wrong, and they can show, look, we care. We want to sell you a house that's, well taken care of. Here's our list of stuff. Here's the paperwork. It's going to give confidence to the buyers. So they're going to be less likely to ask for concessions. They're going to feel more confident in making an offer. So that's another trend that we're seeing. And I suggest that you do it. And we've all talked to sellers who have really grand visions of their home, and they think that the home is worth a lot more than it is, or that it's in perfect shape. It's another way for you, if you're having a difficult seller, to really have a honest conversation about the condition of the home. So you get the pre-listing inspection, you can sit down with them and say, look, these issues are going to come up. Let's take care of some of them, or at least disclose them, and then go from there. That'll help you agree on a proper selling price. It'll make your job easier because you don't have to scramble to find contractors and figure out what to do, when you only have days left of an escrow. So that's another trend and a highly recommended kind of, way to do business now, is to get that. And up in Northern California, that's the norm. Like, they put a house on the market, it's been inspected before it hits the market. So we're finally seeing that down here in San Diego as well. Let's see, other than that, finally, there are some home inspection companies I know that haven't survived this and may not come back, and that's sad. I mean, I'm connected with a whole bunch of home inspection companies, both in San Diego and outside. And I think just like in your arena, some realtors and real estate agents have decided to check out. And this is just too hard. It's kind of like 08, 09, and we went through that as well, where people said, wow, this is supposed to be easy way to make money, and it's not. And so they head to the hills. And we're going to stick it out. We're going to make it through. We haven't yet done any of the PPP loans or disaster loans. So we're going to make it through. But, it's been tough, and it has changed, not only in the way we do it, but in the revenue models and the profit margins. Everything has changed, and it's going to be interesting to see as we go forward in the next months and see how, they're talking about changing the school year. That's going to affect home sales because nobody wants to move while their kids are in school. Yep. Is this going to just push everything into the winter when it normally slows? I don't know. Like Ryan, I can only look at the numbers. I don't want to predict anything, but we're just going to try and be flexible and roll with the punches. So, Ryan, did you have anything that you wanted me to address in particular?
I have a couple questions for you based off of what you shared with us. One serious question and then one kind of fun question. So as you laid out the basic process right now, you guys are absolutely preferring that nobody's in the house with the possible exception of the seller, and that's for everybody's safety. And I'm sure everybody values and appreciates that like we do. As we start to turn the economy back on, beaches are opening, parks are opening, we're going to start to see businesses opening in California. where are you guys at right now with starting to open that back up, whether that's bringing in the buyer's agent and they can conference somebody in on a Zoom call for the summary, or have you guys put any thought into that yet, or are we still a little too far away from that at this point for you guys to start moving that way?
That's what we're doing. Either usually FaceTime it might be easier for the guys because they're on the road sometimes, and the agents are always very hey, how did the inspection go? So the guys are calling them or doing a FaceTime or conferencing in the buyers and just going over the summary as we would on site. Obviously, we're not sitting down with them. They're adapting to it, so they are making adjustments and rolling with with the new way of doing business, which is FaceTime or Zoom. And a lot of realtors are good at just setting up that Zoom call and having the link ready. And so, 3 hours, 4 hours after the start time of the inspection, boom, they're jumping on a Zoom call. And our inspectors, we use Zoom internally anyway. Perfect. So they're all very comfortable communicating that way.
Perfect. All right. Then the fun question, what's the strangest thing you've seen called out in the home inspection?
It's
like asking an ER doctor what the funniest, strangest thing they've seen come in.
I'm going to keep it
PG.
Because we see everything you might imagine, and it blows my mind some of the things that people leave out with strangers coming in the house over the years. But probably one of the weirdest things we've ever seen was an actual coffin on one of those rolly things like you see from a hearse, how they move the coffin into the vehicle and out, right in front of the house. And it had a 5-gallon like Home Depot bucket underneath one corner that was filled with this liquid. I don't know if it was rain or what. And our inspector did not open the casket, but that's got to be one of the absolute strangest things that we've ever seen at a home inspection.
Yeah.
You got to think, what's in there? Urns. Okay, we've seen urns, but a coffin sitting out front.
Yeah.
That was pretty bad.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, I'm sure there's some other good ones. Maybe we'll get to those at another time in the adult version of the show. So, all right, cool. If anybody, we do have some questions that have been sent in ahead of time for you. We'll bring those all out at the end. Anybody who's on the chat is turned on. Philippe, thanks for mentioning that. So if any questions are coming up that you guys have as we're going, feel free to type them in. So, all right, let's get to the real estate part of this. All right, so on the ground update, what's going on in San Diego? The new data is out, just came out this morning. A few things I want to put out there before we really get into this. First of all, the data did just come out, right? It is going to take 5 to 7 days for everybody to get all the data from April put into the system. So these numbers are going to change, all right? This is a preliminary glimpse at them. They are not permanent. The other thing I want you to really understand is that these are all the numbers from April. The entire month of April was 100% impacted by the COVID-19 virus, okay? So we're gonna go through and we'll take a look at some of the key metrics. So the first one, median sales price. Now this is all of San Diego County. This is the $37 million listing in La Jolla. This is the $10,000 trailer in Borrego Springs, okay? New median sales price, $604,750. That is going to change as more numbers come in. That's up 5.1% from April of 2019. So all the percentage changes are back to April of 2019, a year ago. We're up 5%. That is a new all-time high in San Diego County. All right. So pricing is still going up. It went up last month. It's up this month. Median days on market, 8 days. House comes on the market. It's gone 8 days later. That is 50% faster than a year ago. Months worth of inventory, 1.8 months. All right, that's the second month in a row we've been at that number, 31% less than where we were a year ago. Active listings are down 31%. New listings, 42% down. Pending listings, 42% down. Sold listings, 34% down. All right, so this is, keep in mind, on March 19th is when the governor gave the stay-at-home order. All right, so it took time to get through that. On the next slide, the graph will come up and kind of break that down for us. The month of April, more or less, everybody was doing a pretty good job with the stay-at-home order, right? And we can see that by the numbers. The number of properties that are coming on the market, down 31%. Then 42, 42 for new listings and pending listings. All right. So the take home from this, COVID had an impact. Everybody can see that. Everybody can feel it. Here's the preliminary numbers. All right. There are people that have to buy and sell homes for various reasons. It could be a family. How about this as an example for everybody out there who's still wondering why realtors feel they are an essential service? How about the 67-year-old couple that has owned their home for 42 years? They raised their 4 kids there, and they just lost 3/4 of their life savings because of the stock market crash. They now have to sell their $2.4 million home they've owned for 40 years in order to go buy a $500,000 condo so they can afford to live. You tell me, is that essential? I would say it is. All right. So there's all kinds of stuff like that. That's obviously pulling at the heartstrings, but there are people that do need to buy and sell. So that is basically what we're seeing taking place. So let's look more specifically at the daily numbers. All right. So these are all of the active listings. This is going back to March 1st. So we have basically 2 full months worth of data. The red line, that's March 19th. That was the stay-at-home order for California. All right. So what you can see, if you can see this, there's a gray box basically covering the right-hand side of the graph, very light gray. That's the month of April. All right. Basically, you can see that we were really starting to gain a lot of steam right up until March 19, and then we had a pretty precipitous drop, and then we just simply have kind of been bouncing along. Homes have come on, but not at a super high rate. All right. And so if we were to do a line of best fit, I would say that from the second week of April to today, we are seeing a gradual increase without a doubt. Okay. Over the last week, we've definitely seen an increase. All right. You can see that right here on the far right-hand side. One thing to keep in mind with this, you do see the peaks and valleys. The valleys, right? So remember, active listings is when is this thing coming on when's it coming on the market, right? Homes don't come on the market on Mondays. They don't come on the market on Tuesdays normally, right? We're normally looking at Thursday, Friday. Those tend to be the 2 best days. So a lot of the peaks that we're seeing, those are the middle of the week. The troughs, those are Saturdays and Sundays, right? The reason people aren't bringing a home on the market on Saturday is everybody's already made plans of where they're going to go look at open houses on Saturday. They made those plans on Friday, all right? Now, the next slide, pending listings. This is the one that is very interesting. So again, same graph, red line on the day of the stay-at-home order. What we can see is an absolute trend upwards in pending. I would personally argue it started somewhere right around the beginning of March. We had a new high this year, as it may be, or let's say in the last 2 months, up over 160. That was about a week ago on the 24th, 25th. All right. So remember, pending is when an offer is accepted, goes into escrow. Normally, offers are accepted Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, right? Because the open houses are on the weekends, people submit the offers, negotiations, etc. Okay. So what's the take-home message of this? Business is still taking place. It is increasing day by day, week by week at this point, which is wonderful news for everybody. Okay. So that's the local market. Let's take, and there's the line of best fit. All right. So let's talk recession and recovery. Okay. Let's kind of transition a little bit. There's a lot of stuff going on in the news about what type of recession this is, and it tends to change depending on who you're talking to and what time of day they're talking. So in reality, if you talk to somebody who is classically trained in economics or finance, there are 3 types of recessions: the V, the U, and the L. If you listen to the news, we have the check mark, the W, the tick, the flying W, the U, the V, and the Nike swoosh. This is literally people making things up as they're going because they simply are trying to explain what they're seeing. They're trying to explain what their opinions are, and we end up with new terms, okay? So the tennis balls on the right-hand side kind of give you an idea. The V-shaped recovery would be a brand new tennis ball. You drop it on the ground, it's going to bounce right back up. It's wonderful. The U-shape is one that you've played with for maybe a month or 2. You can still drop it on the ground. It's just not going to spring back up as quickly. The L-shaped, you drop it on the ground, and it basically just rolls away from you. All right, so when it comes to the terminology, it's all over the place. All right. So here's what I would tell you. Classical definition wise, the V-shaped recovery is one that has a very rapid drop to the bottom. It has a very well-defined trough, and then it has an equally rapid or more rapid ascent back into the recovery world. Okay. A U-shape by definition does not drop as rapidly. We're not having a U-shaped recovery by definition. If you want to talk about the W, The W is an extended funky U, basically. All right. And we most certainly have not had it. We are not going to have an L-shaped recession. That's basically what we had in 2008. It dropped straight down and then just plateaued. All right. So what is the data? What's the science have to say about this? What do some of the true financial experts have to say? This is an updated graph from last week, talking about GDP projections. So these are the major financial institutions: Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo is added in there. Just to give you guys an idea, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley manage over 1.7 trillion with a T dollars for the wealthiest people in the world. If they get this wrong, how many hundreds of billions do they not manage anymore? Right. So when these institutions put this information out, I would have to go if it's pretty reasonable. All right. So the new numbers did come in for Q1 earlier this week, negative 4.8. It was a little lower than everybody thought it was going to be. Okay, that's where we are. So remember the definition from last week of a recession: 2 consecutive quarters. We now have 1 consecutive quarter. Q2 doesn't end until the end of July. It's going to be the end of August before we get the data to formally say we're in a recession. Are we functionally in one? Yes, we are. All right. So what is it going to look like? Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo are all predicting the V. All right. So they're expecting or predicting this very rapid drop to the bottom in Q2 and a very rapid recovery. Last week, I would have told you Q3, Q4. At this point, I'm going to tell you it's somewhere in the second half of Q2. Or I'm sorry, second half of 2020. All right. It is really going to depend on all 50 states. Right? If half the country turns back on, the other half doesn't, that's a scenario. Right? If everybody comes back online, different scenario. But this is what the major financial institutions have been predicting, and they still are. All right, that's good news. So here's why nobody has a very good answer to this. Right? There's 3 types of science that we have to take into consideration. Business science, meaning how has the economy rebounded from similar shutdowns in the past. Health science, meaning when will COVID-19 be under control? When is there going to be a vaccine? What is that going to look like? Is there going to be a second wave? Right? The third one is the social science. That's after the businesses are operational. How long will it take American consumers to return to their normal consumption patterns? Right? So I want to talk about that for a second. Right? On May 8th, we're going to get the next unemployment report where we're really going to know what industries lost jobs. Right? We had one that I put up last week that was from April 3rd that was only dealing with the first 700,000 of what is now over 30 million people. Right? So it is absolutely not indicative. It was roughly 60% in the service industry, food and drink. All right. So let's think of a restaurant that you guys like to go to that's in your hometown, that's down the street from you, that is shut down and they don't have business going on right now. They might be doing takeout, delivery. When they open back up, we know it's going to be at a lower capacity. We also know that in San Diego, if I want to go eat dinner and I want to get into a restaurant without much of an issue, I go before 6 o'clock and I'm good. If I go after 6, I'm going to wait. If I go after 7, I'm going to have a few drinks. And if after 8 o'clock, I'm going to be hanging out for a while. Right? I think as these businesses start to open, I think that you're going to see a lot more people going to dinner at 5 o'clock. I think you're going to see a lot of restaurants staying open until midnight because they can now serve people dinner from 10 to midnight. So I think you're going to see the same type or same volume of business. I think it's just going to be extended over longer hours. That would just be one example of the social science, but we don't know. We have no idea. We know that some of the businesses, like Philippe was saying with the home inspection companies, they're not coming back. Right? And that's heartbreaking. That's a shame. Right? And those of you out there that are business owners, you can feel that. Right? But that's where we're at. So these are the 3 things, 3 different types of science that has to be taken into consideration when we're trying to figure out what's going on. Right? So 3 quotes for you. Zillow, during epidemics such as the 1918 influenza, that was the Spanish flu, 2003 with SARS, economic activity fell sharply during the epidemic but snapped back quickly. Right? John Burns Consulting, historical analysis showed that pandemics are usually V-shaped, sharp recessions that recover quickly to provide little damage to home prices. You have the Harvard Business Review saying V-shapes monopolize the empirical landscapes of prior shocks, including SARS, the Hong Kong flu, the Spanish flu, and then the H2N2, which I'm drawing a blank on what that name was. But you got these 3 institutions all saying V-shape. All right, so continuing along with that, this is Sam Cotter, chief economist with Freddie Mac. Right, I would say that that's as pretty good resource to listen to. And what he had to say is, although the uncertainty of the crisis means forecasts of economic activity are more unclear than usual, we expect that most of the economic damage from the virus will be contained to the first half of the year. Going forward, we should see a strong recovery starting in the second half of 2020. All right, so that's Freddie Mac. For those of you that don't know, they have something to do with mortgages. Right, that's a little sarcasm there. Here's CNBC. Right, evidence is mounting that home buyers are coming back to the market after demand plummeted in the past month due to the coronavirus. Ladies and gentlemen, people need to buy and sell homes. People want to buy and sell homes. Right, we have a whole lot of want that's pent up right now. The need is what's taking place. Right, so what does the science have to say? Right, we need to understand the answer to these two questions. Right, what's going to be the depth of the unemployment, and what is going to be the length of the unemployment? Right, so this is the comparing it to the Great Recession, right? And actually, we're going to go back to the Great Depression too. Right, there's a lot of people like this 2008 all over again. Oh my God! All right, so let's see if that's the case. Taking a look at the current unemployment rates compared to past financial crises. Here's the Great Depression, right? We know it was 12 years long, 1930 to 35. There's your unemployment rates, right? 8.7, 15.9, 25% in 1933. That is a lot of depth. That's a lot of people, and it was long. It was 12 years. When we look at the Great Recession, it was approximately 9 years or so. From 2009 to 11 were the worst, right? And we're basically saying 8% is that limit. We're saying anything greater than 8%, and it's Houston, we got a big problem, all right? So 2009, 10, and 11, 9.9, 9.3, 8.5. Not a ton of depth there, right? We're barely hitting 10% rounding up, right? In the Great Depression, people would have loved 10%. Would have been wonderful for them, right? So we don't have the depth. We do have the length, 9 years. So what about the projections for COVID? Here you go. 2020, 15%. 2021, 6 to 8%. 2022, 5%. 2023, 4%. This is from Goldman Sachs, all right? Is there depth? Oh yeah, 15% is big. We got 30 million Americans who would like to be working. They were working a month and a half ago. They can't work now. So here's a little bit of a better graphical representation. Depth going up and down on the y-axis, length on the x-axis, left to right. There's the Great Recession, 25%. You can see the depth, you can see the length. There's the Great Recession, 10%. That's COVID. Fill it in for you for a little more perspective. Does 15% suck? Yeah, absolutely. Right? Is it 25%? Nope, it's not. What this is basically saying is that 80 to 85% of the country is still working. They're still out there moving the economy down the road, all right? So what does all that mean for us? Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody knows. That's how we're seeing economists make up terms for recessions. Here's a good example for you. Dr. Fauci can't tell us when this is going to come to an end. He's on TV every single day, maybe not morning and night anymore, but he's not hiding from the fact that he can't give us perfect advice. He's giving us the best advice he has. Same thing with Dr. Birx, who's up there. So based on what we see, what we know, and what the science says, we're expecting that very sharp drop down to the bottom somewhere in Q2, April, May, June. We know that the economy is going to come skyrocketing back second half of the year into 2021, all right? That's what we got right now for the kind of the economy, the recession, GDP. Talking more specifically about the market in general, impact of COVID-19 on showings, right? So this graph is from Showing Time. It's a service that we use to have people request showings and stuff. Basically, we can see that at the beginning of the year, right up until about March 3rd, keep in mind these are national numbers, we had a very nice increase in showings, and then right down to the bottom. We now see that that's coming back up, little dip back down, and now we're back on the rise, right? Good news. People are out looking at homes. This is from the Z Report. The Ivy Zellman is the editor there, right? We note that the inventory as a percent of households sit at the lowest levels ever, right? So the housing market, uniquely positioned to lead the economy out of the financial recession that we are in. In 2008, housing market caused the problem, all right? So those of you that are out there that are thinking, hey, I was thinking about selling, if you'd like to help bring the economy back, let's get the house on the market. There's people that are going to buy it. We're not going to take a bath on the pricing either. We're going to get to that in a minute. All right, so a little bit more about seller traffic. And these are some really powerful images right here. So obviously, map of the country, February seller traffic index. This is from National Association of Realtors. Dark blue is strong, meaning a lot of sellers saying, hey, we're ready to sell right now. Light blue it was stable. Gray is weak, right? That's February. COVID was kind of in the very back of everybody's minds, if anybody had even heard about it, if you're paying attention on the news, right? Here's March. Big difference there. Let me rewind that. Nobody's raising their hand going, I'd like to sell. Here's the buyer traffic in March. See all those dark blue states? Those are people that want to buy homes. Even the light blue states, people want to buy homes. There are no gray on there. I don't see any gray. Those of you that are thinking of selling, you got a lot of buyers that are out here. They're ready to roll. They are absolutely ready to roll. All right, so a couple more slides. U.S. home ownership percentage rates. Right, we know that back in '96, roughly 65%, increased up into the 2004-2005 range to 69%. Housing issue down to 63% in 2015, 2016, and now we are coming back up. All right, so what is causing this? Median asking rent since 1988. Renting is going up with the internet, with video, with social media. People are able to get information out to people. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it might not have been as easy to figure out or to learn the value of owning instead of renting. You might have had to have heard that from somebody. Somebody had to have shared that with you. You can't just get on Google. There was no Google 30 years ago, all right? So from there, Terry Haggerty with Goldman Sachs in 2008, you saw a large number of Americans who thought that maybe borrowing a bunch of money, buying a house is not the best investment. I think you may see the opposite effect this time around. And that just simply has to do with the housing market, which we're going to sum up here in a minute. National Association of Home Builders, the number of homeowners increased by 2.6 million, while the number of renter households declined by 600,000. Indeed, the number of homeowner households has been climbing since the third quarter of 2015, while the number of renter households has been on a downward trend. This implies that the transition from renting to owning has been a powerful driver of the net increase in households, right? The big question that everybody had was, are millennials going to buy homes? The answer is yes, they're buying a lot of them, all right? So interest rates, very, very important, very, very powerful graph right here, or chart. $1 million mortgage, right? So those of you in Carmel Valley, barely getting into the starter home range, right? 30-year mortgage, interest paid over 30 years. If you would have bought in 2019, December 2019, 4.01%, everybody was like, oh, we're down to 4%. We're almost up at 5. Oh my gosh. You pay $720,000 over 30 years in interest. Here's what we have today. You tell me. Now that you see this, how many of you are going to be unhappy if you pay, oh, well, but I don't want to pay an extra $5,000 for my $1 million house? You tell me. $5,000 that much now? Is $10,000 that much now? Is $20,000 that much now? Just remember something. If this is a primary residence that we're wanting to purchase, this isn't an investment property. It's not a math equation. There's no capitalization rate. You're buying a house to move your family into, to start a family in, and to make memories. That's the value of the house. Not, well, in 15 years, I want to be able to resell it. And I might have bought it for $10,000 more than I needed to 15 years ago. Okay, well, cool. Well, in 30 years, you would have saved $157,977 if you buy now instead of in December of 2019. All right, so historically low interest rates. Those are from Freddie Mac's weekly interest rate. The calculations were all done right there off bankrate.com. You guys can go back and find the video on YouTube, and you can pull up that website right there. So there's a little bit on interest rates. So let's sum up the housing market and go from there. Right? A recession does not equal a housing crisis. So based on what we know and what we see and what the science has to say, there's a few different things that are different now than they were in 2008. If you want the full in-depth explanation of this, last week we dug into it. First is months worth of inventory, right? We had 1.8 months worth of inventory. In 2007, we had 8.1 months worth of inventory. We were overbuilt. Appreciation rates today are well under 5-6%. In the 6 years leading into 2005, 2006, we were seeing appreciation rates in double digits. Number three is home equity, right? The few years leading into 2008, Americans cashed out something to the tune of $832 billion with a B in home equity to finance boats and vacations and jewelry and clothing and cars. The last 2 years leading into 2020, that number is around $232 billion. So roughly $500 billion with a B is still there. The average mortgage in the United States, I remember who this quote came from. I think it was Goldman Sachs. Or it was CoreLogic. $177,000 worth of equity. That's your average mortgage, right? Let's say that the market drops 25%, which is 5% more than what we saw in 2008. You still have $125,000, $130,000 worth of equity. Are you going to walk away from your house? Like, we don't need that 125 grand. You're not going to see the short sales. You're not going to see the foreclosures. There's too much equity. Fourth one, mortgage credit availability index. Fancy term from the Mortgage Bankers Association. Basically, how easy is it to get a loan, right? So in 2006, a kindergarten teacher can walk into Bank of America, look a loan officer in the eye and say, I make $157,000 a year. I'd like to buy a $6 million house. The loan officer said, cool, sign here. We don't do that anymore, right? One of the questions that we're going to get to that was emailed in is what's going on with loans? What's going on with jumbo loans? What's going on with the percentage down, right? Let me put it to you this way. If you want to buy a house right now over $700,000, better call your banker. Might not have a loan that you had a month ago, all right? And we'll get more into that with the Q&A here in a minute. The last one is just simply the home value projections or predictions. I don't have the chart on here, but basically the appreciation rates that are being projected for 2021, 2022, and 2023 are higher now post-COVID than the projections before the coronavirus showed up, right? So with all of these reasons laid out for you, I don't think we're going to see anything close to what we saw in 2008. That being said, if we don't reopen the economy until August or September, different story, very different story, all right? So based on what we see, what we know, what the science has to say, again, we're seeing the housing market being positioned to lead the way out in Q3, Q4, all right? So last quote for you. This is a couple weeks old now, but I like it, and it's becoming more and more relevant. If policymakers, meaning politicians, federal, state, and local, manage to thread the needle between continued virus control and gradual reopening of the economy, the levels of GDP should begin to move higher in the months ahead. Those of you that have never tried threading a needle, give it a shot, and then let me know if you think that either the federal, state, or local government's going to do a very good job at that. It's not an easy thing to do. All right. So that being said, any of you who want to get in touch with either myself or with Philippe, all the contact info is there. Philippe, is there anything you wanted to add, or did you have any questions based off of what I just shared?
I love your slides. That I'm going to save this because that was so great. Thank you very much for putting all that together.
Thank you.
It's a lot of work, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm with you. It's like, it's not the desire to do business among the real estate community. It's going to come down to the buyer's confidence. And, the longer this drags on and the longer restaurants and business owners stay closed, I think the longer it's going to be for them to recover. I think we're going to see, unfortunately, some more businesses closing months after they're reopened. And that may come if they only let restaurants seat 25%. How can they pay their overhead? It's going to be impossible. And as long as we can get through that and not see a dramatic closing of businesses and people staying unemployed because of it, if those people get back to work soon, great. If a lot of businesses start going under, that's going to be a big concern in my opinion. So, yeah. But I'm not an economist, but it just seems the longer this goes on, the deeper the hole is going to be for some of these small businesses to dig out of.
Yeah, I agree. The best hope I have is that more people are going to go eat at 5 o'clock because it's the only time they can get in. More people are going to eat at 9 or 10 or 11. And that's the best hope I got. Because no one's really talking about, the businesses are going to come back. maybe at half the capacity that they were initially. So that'll be interesting to see. That'll be interesting to see. So, all right, let me pull up the questions that we have. Let's go ahead and go through those guys. All right. Philippe, we'll start with one for you. General question, why is one home inspection company any better or different than the others? Don't you guys all do the same basic thing?
No. Short answer. They're just like a building contractor. There are building codes, and you can build to the minimum standards, or you can build a luxury home, and they all meet code. So it's similar among home inspectors. We have standards of practice, and you could do the bare basic home inspection, and it doesn't have to have pictures, doesn't have to have video, you don't have to use a thermal image camera. You don't even need licensing in the state of California. It's just a certification, and not even that. There's no checks and balances, very little regulation on our industry. Somebody could literally print up some business cards and be a home inspector tomorrow. So you want to make sure that there is, a track record of experience. You want to make sure that a company has been around and they're going to stand behind the work that they do. It's all well and good to get a cheap price on a home inspection, and then your buyer moves in and finds out that there was a broken garage door spring or some other item that was missed, and that home inspector is long gone, and it's something he should have found. You want to go with a company who's going to stand behind their work and say, you know what, I should have caught that. My guy should have caught that. I'm going to send out a licensed garage door company to repair that garage door spring. And the realtor has a much easier time of it. The client's happy. Everybody makes mistakes now and then. It's how you back it up. So they're not all the same. You want to go with, like my guys, they're on a group chat. If one of them has a question, something they haven't seen, they've got the brain power of all the other team members to help them out. As opposed to just, chucking a truck who's driving around doing it all on his own. Yeah. I'm in my office up here in Ramona right now. We've got a huge training center behind me. Our guys come in here and get face-to-face training. So it's that kind of stuff that you really want to ask to kind of differentiate them. It's just like a realtor, right? Oh, did you just get your license yesterday? What are your specialties? What's your background? How long have you been doing this? So I think any industry is like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're paving the way for the next question that it sent in. What happens if you guys miss something in the inspection?
Right. If it's within the scope of the inspection and it's something, we could have seen, given, there's limited time we're on site there. We can't put holes in walls. We cannot experience the house in every weather condition. Obviously, if it's the middle of summer, we don't know if there's an active roof leak, right? So if we miss something, my company, I can only speak for my company, right? If it's something we should have caught within the scope of a home inspection, we will stand behind it. We'll send out a professional to fix it, or we'll talk with the clients, and if they want to use their guy and it's not astronomical, we'll cut them a check and get it fixed. And that has happened with failed windows. That has happened with some plumbing issues that were very difficult to find. But they turned up, and it's like, well, maybe if we'd just gone a little further in the testing, we could have found it. And so we've worked with people, and we've gotten a lot of stuff fixed. So we stand behind our work.
Okay, good. All right, a few other questions. This is the one I brought up earlier. Question was, what's going on with jumbo loans and Chase and all the other banks? So basically, if you go to the YouTube channel, we had Andrew Paul on with Benchmark Mortgage last week, and he spoke a little bit about this, kind of gave you a far more in-depth explanation than I'm going to. But basically, the ability for somebody to get a loan right now is very low, right? It is very difficult to do. If you're over the conforming loan limit, which in San Diego County is right around $701,000. Okay, so if you're under that, you don't have any issues. Over that, we get into what's called the jumbo loans, and those are very difficult to get right now. The banks have in general tightened up their restrictions, their requirements. Chase, for example, was the first one to do this. They required 20% down, right? And so we can expect to see the other banks following if they haven't already. And basically, if you are out there in the position where you're looking to buy something over that $700,000 price point, you really need to talk to your lender. Right? You need to see where you're at. You don't want to get into a position where you find your perfect home and now you can't buy it because you can't get the loan. All right. So if you're in that position, double check with your lender. All right. All right. Another question coming in, or it came in, how much of what you do is virtual and how much of it will remain that way post-COVID? So Philippe laid that out earlier for him. Basically with us, we're doing everything virtually at this point. I'm actually going to do an entire seminar on Saturday at 1 that's going to basically explain the entire process of how everything is being done virtually. It'll be interesting to see how much of it remains virtual. The real estate world is very relationship based, right? You have a lot of the iBuyers and, you know, we don't need to have an agent. We'll just have a computer take care of it type of thing. And I think we're a ways away from human beings feeling very comfortable with that on a regular basis. So do I think that we will go back to in-person meetings? Yeah, I do. Do I think a fair number of people are going to stick with Zoom? Yeah, absolutely. If it's me and I have to talk to somebody, do I want to drive to their office or do I want to hop on Zoom while I'm sitting on my couch? Right. So I think we're going to see a mixture. And I think that it's just going to depend on how it plays out, basically. So going along with that, next one was, are we expecting to see a bunch of price drops, distressed properties? In general, I do not think we're going to at this point, but that is going to depend on a few different things. One, first and foremost, is going to be how quickly does California come out of this, right? If we drag the stay-at-home order on for another few months, we could see price reductions. We could see prices coming down, absolutely. If we do come out of this in a faster, more measured way that gets businesses turned back on, it gets people back to work, I don't think we're going to have this issue. The federal government and the state government and the county government and the city government in San Diego have all stepped in very early to prevent foreclosures, to prevent evictions. That's a very, very good thing. In 2008, they sat on the sideline for way too long, and it got to a point where they were not going to be able to bring it back. All right. So we all saw that. So do I think we're going to see massive price drops? No, I do not. They're in general, you've seen the pricing, right? This in the month of April, we set another record all-time high for the median sales price in the county. All right. All right. Philippe, another one for you. How are you guys doing Zoom or FaceTime summaries at the end of the inspection? So I know you spoke to that before. What is the future of that looking like? Where we're going to be able to maybe have the agent come in to be there to do that, or what are we looking at with the, you know, big Zoom party type thing? Can you sum that up for us?
Yeah, right now, most of the time, it's just a phone call with the parties involved.
Mm-hmm.
To a lesser extent, we've actually had guys do FaceTime and walk around the house because they want to, the buyers want to see what's going on. And so the inspector will walk them through the house with their camera. Zoom, actually, I think nobody's taking the time to set up an actual Zoom call with our inspector and doing it. It's usually just over the phone, and then they get the report, and then they call a little bit back and forth. So we've done that in the past a lot with out-of-town buyers. Like you get some Arizona resident who's buying a condo out here, but maybe they can't attend the home inspection. Mm-hmm. So we've done that before, where we'll do the summary with a FaceTime, and all the guys are set up for that on their phones, of course. And I see more of that happening. So it'll continue.
Okay, good. All right, let's get a few more in. We're going to try to end by 4 o'clock. All right, so question that was aimed at me. Are we having a lot of deals fall through? At this point, no, we're not. We have prevented that, if you will, because we were very honest and upfront and ahead of everything with the majority of our sellers. As this all started to happen, we had some very honest, hard conversations with them. Some of them have decided, hey, we're going to wait another month. We're going to wait 2 months till we list the property. Some of them have said, hey, you know what? You guys know what you're doing. Make it happen. We have multiple properties in escrow. I have one that's set to close next Wednesday. So business is happening. We're not seeing a lot of deals fall out. Looking at the back on market classification or status in the MLS, there aren't a tremendous number of them. So that's a good sign. I think that what we're seeing is the people that are selling properties, people that have them listed, they're serious about selling. People that are out looking at properties online, doing the virtual tours, writing offers, going into escrow, they're very serious buyers. We don't have a lot of looky-loos out there right now. So keep that in mind. Sellers, the people that are looking at your property at this point, they are more or less very serious buyers. Buyers that are out there, when you guys are looking at properties that are on the market, the sellers aren't playing around either, right? They're not going, oh, well, we'll just give you 50 grand off, whatever. It's not going to happen, guys. We're not seeing that right now. All right. So we are expecting to see more and more, homes come on the market for sale. We know that the buyers are there. So that's kind of where we're at in that regard. Another question, I guess this one would be aimed at both of us. So Philippe, you go first. What are you doing with all your free time?
Oh, we're doubling down and we've been doing a lot more Zoom instead of hosting office meetings like we've done in the past at your location as well to get to know people. Brokers are inviting us in and saying, tell us what's good, just like we're doing here today. So we've been working really hard trying to, just stay relevant and visible and same thing, just not a lot of free time.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of the other home inspection companies where there's some that just hit the pause button?
Yep.
Okay. And those are the ones that aren't coming back more than likely?
I can't speak for everybody's financial situation. I think it's very hard. Like if you just check out in any industry, you're going to fade away pretty quickly and someone's going to fill that vacuum. So that's what we've been working hard to do. So if somebody has chosen to sit on the sidelines or said, this is the time for me to retire, this is the time for me to get out of here and go to Texas or Arizona, we want to be there to catch the business that they're walking away from.
Yeah, I hear you. My answer to that would be, I am probably 30% busier now, not doing transactions because they aren't there, but in terms of moving things into the digital space, developing new products, creating new things, I would say I'm tremendously busier. I know that there are various levels of busy even throughout our office. I know that there's a lot of realtors out there who just simply push the pause button for whatever reason. Those of you that are out there, please hit the start button again. We are going to need your assistance to get this going again. So, all right, there's free time. I mean, everybody thinks we all have free time. All right, let's do two more. One for you, Philippe. What is one question I should always ask a home inspector that most people forget to ask?
That's a good one. You mean, I'm assuming during the hiring, like trying to find a home inspector or at the home inspection itself?
They didn't say. I would take it probably at the home inspection, but either way, give us both.
I would really make sure as a buyer that I have a good understanding of what is at the end of its life. Because remember, a home inspection is really a pass fail. So I could say, yeah, there's no signs of leaking. The roof is serviceable. But is it a 20-year-old or 20-year roof that's 19 years in, and trying to determine that? So I would say, please tell me how old the furnace is. How old do you think the roof is? Things like that. So I know what to budget for in the next 3 to 5 years that I may have to replace as a home buyer.
Great advice. All right. I'm going to go with one more. Let's go with the buyer question. We answered the seller question last week. Buyer question, should I wait to buy until after COVID? Will I get a better deal now? All right, so we laid out all the numbers. We laid out the justification of why the housing market isn't going to collapse. I don't have a crystal ball that works, and the magic 8-ball I have is somewhere not in front of me. So I think that if you need to buy, you need to buy. I think that what you really need to do to start that off is have a conversation with the real estate professional, right? If you want to talk with me, I have time. If you want to find it, whoever, have that conversation, go through the market data in your specific area. If you're looking in a specific community or development, and take a look and see what's going on. But what I can tell you is that in general, there are not fire sales taking place. There are not distressed properties. There are not massive deals to be had out there right now. If you can get something maybe 1 to 3% under market value, you are doing very well for yourself. So I would tell you that right now, the homes that are on the market for sale, the sellers are very serious, right? We don't have the situation where somebody says, sure, my house is worth 1.4 million, list it for 1.6. And if someone's going to pay that, then I'll sell it. And it sits there for 180 days and it goes away. We don't have that right now. The homes that are on the market, these are owners that need to sell, right? So coming in with a lowball offer, trying to get a deal, it's happening all the time, and it goes nowhere. Literally, you're wasting your time, right? So that's what I would tell you about getting a deal right now and buying. Selling, I would tell you, if your home isn't on the market, it's not going to sell. All right, the buyers that are out there are not playing games. They are very serious. There are the occasional screwball that'll throw in an incredibly lowball offer. They'll throw in a $500,000 offer on a $600,000 house. Right? It's not going anywhere. All right, so let's leave it there. That kind of gives us a good little Q&A at the end. Philippe, you have anything you want to add at the end? Closing remarks?
Let's see. I think I'm with you. I think if somebody wants to buy, now's a great time. There may be less competition on a house. I'm up in Ramona. If you're looking for houses under 700 because you need to qualify somebody, there's some amazing properties. If they don't mind living in the country and driving, 30 minutes, 40 minutes down the hill. But anyway, no, I just want to thank you for having me on, and anybody who watches, if they have any questions, whether they've worked with us or not, we're always open and available to answer questions. So we're happy to do that.
All right. That sounds good. Well, Philippe, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate you taking some time and joining us today and sharing some great information with us.
You bet. Thank you.
All right. Everybody have a good one, and we'll see you guys next week.